Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 13th of March, 2024. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So before we get into everything, just a couple of housekeeping items to kick off today's episode. First thing, there will be no refuel next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, which I believe is the 19th and 20th of March. I'm traveling to Sydney for some crypto regulatory policy kind of stuff that's happening there. I was invited to an event that's happening there. If you are in Sydney, please reach out to me next week. We can probably catch up for lunch or something like that, or for a coffee, because I will have some free time in between events. But yeah, just a fair warning that there'll be no refuel next week on Tuesday and Wednesday, the 19th and the 20th of March, but I'll be back on the 21st. Hopefully, I fly back on the 21st, so hopefully I should be okay, because it's just Sydney. It's like an hour flight away from me here, so no jet lag or anything like that. And the second thing, just apologies to those who listened to the podcast last night within the first kind of hour or so that it was published, because I accidentally uploaded the wrong episode. I uploaded the episode from the 11th of March instead of the one from the 12th of March. So you would have heard, me giving the intro and saying 11th of March, and either thinking that I've gone crazy by thinking it's the wrong date, or you've gone crazy because you're hearing things. No, it was my fault. Apologies for that. Someone pinged me on Discord, so thank you for them. They pinged me about it and told me that I kind of messed up there, and then yeah, it was rectified there. So yeah, just to clear up any confusion on that front. But anyway, 13th of March, guys, it is Denkun Day. So by the time you're watching this, most of you, from what I see on the statistics, watch it later in the day or after a few hours after I publish the refuel. So Denkun has probably already happened. Hopefully it went well. Hopefully nothing went wrong. It doesn't seem like anything's going to go wrong. But the blobs are finally here. Like, we're only, from time of recording right now, we're like 2 to 3 hours away from it going live, so I'm super amped for it. Going to be on the live stream doing all of that. Hopefully a lot of you guys tune into that there. But it starts a new era for Ethereum, guys. Like, I don't think that people kind of understand what Denkun and what 4844 blobs kind of brings to Ethereum. It starts the era of dank sharding on Ethereum, and it basically means that Ethereum is hyperscaling from here. We've had the layer 2s for a while. We have more and more coming online. They're growing their ecosystems. They're getting bigger and bigger. They're doing their own technical kind of upgrades and improvements and things like that. But now we're focusing on the L1 with the surge part of the L1 roadmap, with EIP 4844, with things like data availability sampling, and with full dank sharding eventually, and that is what's going to hyperscale and supercharge these rollups. And yeah, it really does begin a new era for Ethereum. So I'm very much looking forward to it. I've got a few other things to talk about with regards to Denkun shortly, but want to start off with an update about the Verge today. So obviously another roadmap item on Ethereum's roadmap, not the Surge, but the Verge. So Josh Rudolph put out a recap tweet, as per usual, about the latest stateless clients, Verkle Implementers Call, which is number 14. So they've had a bunch of calls now, so it's great to see progress being made here. And the week's agenda was client team updates, testing updates, DOS vector discussion, and a testnet relaunch. So probably the thing that I think that I like to focus on with these sorts of things, because a lot of it is very technical, very core devy. I'm not going to understand most of it, but stuff that I like to focus on is things like testnets and devnets, and kind of getting closer to mainnet here, hopefully next year, because as I think I've discussed before, it looks like none of the Verge related EIPs are probably going to go into Pectra, which is slated for inclusion, slated to go live on the network. Probably, I'm going to say, like, early next year, to be honest. But then, we may see the Verge happen later on next year sometime, or maybe early kind of 2026. That's the thing. Like, the cadence of upgrades has really been every kind of 9 to 12 months at this point, but like, it depends on the scope of the upgrade, and there's a lot of other things that play into it. But regardless of that, there's been a lot of work being done on the Verge and a lot of progress being made, and Josh Rudolph is probably the best person to follow if you want to keep up to date with all of that. So I'll link his tweet in the YouTube description below, but it seems like they're going to be relaunching the testnet shortly. I think they say here they want to get a testnet launched every kind of like 2 weeks, rather than having such a long-lived testnet as we've done in the past. Try to get it turn around at least every 2 weeks. So they're going to keep running these testnets as time goes on there. All right, a big update from Rated.network today. They have refreshed their entire website. So they've got a brand new look here. It looks awesome, guys, honestly. This is the landing page, as you can see here when you first go to the website. They currently support 2 networks, Ethereum and Polygon, with support for a bunch of other networks coming. But you guys have seen me on this website a bunch of times before, and obviously you can see their new look that they have here. This is where I go to monitor pretty much everything related to the network health of Ethereum's consensus layer specifically, because you can see here, they They list things like the network effectiveness, how many blocks were missed, active validators, network APR, so on and so forth. And what I really like is how they've got the network APR here split into consensus layer APR and execution layer APR. Because if we go the last 30 days, you can kind of see what the total APR has been. So it's been almost 4%, so 3.88%. And then what that's made up of. Consensus layer obviously is the new ETH being issued, and then execution layer is the tips and MEV related payments. And the cool thing about this is you can see that you can kind of see that split in real time and over different periods of time here. Now, of course, they've also got on the left hand side here a menu which you can select a bunch of different things from. They've got their pools list here, so you can see what the staking market share looks like right now across all the different pools and entities and so on and so forth. They've got a node operator section, so you can check in on all the node operators and what percentage share they have of the network. Because as I've discussed before, it's not just the pools that you should be looking at, because there are a lot of node operators that are part of multiple pools. So really, we should be looking at the node operators themselves and what market share they have. And the biggest node operator right now, according to Rated.network, is Kiln, who has 4.23%. Kind of market share here, but I think that in this list they don't kind of include Coinbase and Binance as like single kind of node operators here, which is, I guess, interesting decision. I'm sure they have documentation on that somewhere. But I mean, obviously Binance and Coinbase and Kraken are the biggest single kind of pool node operator or single node operators out there, but I guess that they're considered pools instead of node operators here. But yeah, they've even got like information about the different relays on the network, so MEV boost relays, different builders. There's so much information here, guys, and it's really, really beautifully presented as well. So big kudos to Rated.network for getting this update out there. But yeah, you can go check this out. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. But there's just so much information here. You can get lost in it, and you can kind of monitor it as time goes on. All right, so Tony put out a really interesting little bit of data on Twitter yesterday where he said, what do Ethereum users do? So he's got a kind of graph here showing what the transactions per hour looks like on the Ethereum network. This is just Ethereum L1 and kind of how many transactions happen per transaction type. So you can see here that 20,000 transactions are sending ETH every hour. There's 10,000 token transfers happening every hour as well. And execute is the second most executed Solidity method after transfer and before approve. Now that'll mean something to you developers out there. These are functions that are kind of used in smart contracts and Solidity here. But yeah, it's an interesting stat that 20,000 transactions are sending ETH every hour. I would assume that includes gas fees being paid because obviously every kind of every transaction on the network needs to pay gas fees. But I'd like to get kind of clarity on that. Maybe if Tony's listening, he can give kind of clarity on that. But like, I'm not sure if that includes gas fees paid or not. But if we go to the Ultrasound Money website, you can actually see that ETH transfers is one of the biggest burners of ETH. I mean, I've got the Ultrasound Money website here. I'm just going to scroll down so you guys can see. So if we go to the leaderboard over the last 7 days, ETH transfers is second only to Uniswap. Uniswap is actually pretty far ahead. This is crazy. Uniswap burned 8,400 ETH, and second place, which is ETH transfers, burned 3,700 ETH. So that's a pretty crazy difference there. And then you go to 30 days, same thing. ETH transfers second since the merge, and then since the burn went live. ETH transfers is actually number 1 since the burn went live. And OpenSea is number 2 still, just beating out Uniswap by 12,000 ETH burnt, which is crazy because OpenSea as a platform has actually, I guess like lost a lot of market share over the past year or I guess like 18 months. And also NFTs have not been in the mania that they once were, especially not on layer 1 Ethereum. But it's kind of crazy how much ETH was burnt during the NFT mania, because you remember that the NFT mania really was from like ARP 1559 went live August 2021. NFT Mania was happening then, and then it kind of continued into the end of 2021 and then into 2022 as well. I think that a lot of stuff was happening too. So that really speaks to just how much gas was being burned, or how much ETH was being burnt due to the gas fees just being really, really high during that period of time, thanks to NFTs there. But yeah, anyway, you can go check out this nice little graph from Tony. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But yeah, I'd like to get clarity on that stat there about if it includes gas fees. I'm going to assume it doesn't, but like, I don't know. I'm kind of like guessing. I'm not really basing that on anything other than kind of, I guess, like an intuitive sense that it wouldn't really make sense to include gas fees in that. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if I get any clarity on that. All right, L2Beat has a brand new page on their website that I absolutely love. So this is their data availability page. And on this page, you can see each of the L2s listed here along with what type they are. So are they an optimistic rollup, a ZK rollup, an Optimium, or a Validium, or any other such construction? What data availability layer they're using, what data availability bridge they're using, and the type of data that they're actually posting to the DA layer. Now, the reason why I love this is because there's been this perverse narrative lately that that projects posting their data to like Celestia or Nia or some other off-chain data availability layer is basically saving them money compared to posting their data to Ethereum L1. Now, on the surface, that is true, obviously. Ethereum L1 is expensive. Even with blobs, it's probably still going to be more expensive than and posting it to, a data availability layer like Celestia. But the point is that you're basically not comparing apples to apples here, because Ethereum's DA layer, or Ethereum, I guess, like L1, which is the DA layer, is like many orders of magnitude more secure, more decentralized, more censorship resistant, and more credibly neutral than any of these other layers. So you're not comparing apples to apples at all. And it's a kind of a perverse narrative, and I really don't like it. I think it's actually completely wrong to be equating those things as if they're the same thing. Like it kind of boggles my mind that people are doing this, but hey, I mean, this is a nuanced thing I can understand. But yeah, and the reason why I like this page here on L2Beat is because it shows you exactly where the data is being stored, and then you can make an informed decision here about this. You can see here that obviously Arbitrum One and OP Mainnet, two of the top L2s on Ethereum, are using Ethereum L1 as a data availability layer. So currently they're using call data, but obviously after Denkun goes live, they're going to be using blobs, and their DA bridge is enshrined. And the types of data that they're sending are compressed transactions data, which obviously we already know. Now, what's important about this is that the bridge is enshrined, which means that you can exit to L1 without relying on the L2. Like there's an escape hatch in place, especially when it comes to Arbitrum One, which is a stage 1 rollup right now. OP Mainnet, unfortunately, is still stage 0 because they don't have fraud proofs yet. The whole OP stack is like that. But if we're looking at Arbitrum One, it means you can exit to L1 without needing the permission of the L2 because the bridge is enshrined, right? And then you've got the DA being posted to Ethereum as well, so you're not relying on DA from another layer. You can just rely on Ethereum L1 for everything. And that's why rollups are so awesome, because it's just all tightly coupled and tightly contained in the same layer here. But then we can look at other constructions that are posting their data elsewhere. So for example, Manta is posting their data to a Celestia, and they don't have a DA bridge, none here. So there is no bridge that can attest if the data has been made available. So essentially what that means is that you're totally reliant on Celestia with Manta. So if you wanted to do a force exit, you would have to get the data from Celestia, and then you would have to hope that it was right, basically, in order to kind of force exit from Manta in case something was to go wrong, to get your funds back on L1 Ethereum. So when you look at it from that perspective, you can see what I mean by these things are not equivalent at all. Ethereum's DA layer is just orders of magnitude more secure than any of these other DA layers, and especially if both the data availability of the transactions data is being posted. The data of the transaction data is being posted to Ethereum L1 as well as the bridge being enshrined on Ethereum kind of L1 here. Now, all that is to say that not to say that Validiums and Optimiums and other such constructions with DA off-chain aren't valuable, but the point is, or aren't kind of they don't have a purpose, but the point is that they have less security, way less security. Like, as I said, orders of magnitude less security than Ethereum L1. I mean, just to put some numbers on it, Ethereum L1 has $30 billion of economic security right now via ETH staked. It has the most decentralized and distributed node operator set of any network in crypto, including Bitcoin, guys, because I know that when it comes to miners, it's kind of hard to tell where the miners are, how many individual miners there are, but like you can look at pools as well, and I know pools aren't equivalent to, people can change pools and stuff like that, but the point is that I very much doubt there are thousands of individual mining farms, right, on Bitcoin, whereas there are thousands of individual node operators on Ethereum. And it works differently because of proof of work, proof of stake. It's not an apples to apples comparison, to be honest, but Ethereum has $130 billion of economic security via the stake, thousands of individual and diverse and distributed node operators, right? It has a very long track record of of uptime, and that very long track record is basically since Genesis, 100% uptime. You have censorship resistant guarantees. Yes, there's censorship on the network because of the Tornado Cash stuff and MEV boost enabling that. But the point is that you can still get your transaction included because Ethereum is censorship resistant. And at the same time, Ethereum is being purpose-built now for these L2s with things like blobs. So when you kind of take that all together and you kind of look at it, you get what I mean when it's not an apples-to-apples comparison when kind of comparing Ethereum DA to off-chain DA here. And I really hope that narrative goes away over time, especially as Ethereum DA gets cheaper. I think it's kind of a cost thing that people look at. But yeah, I mean, the analogy I use is that imagine you just bought a $50 Android phone. It's obviously a really cheap phone, but you can get it. I mean, there are actually brand new phones in some places of the world that are $50, have Android running on it, and it serves the purpose of the person that bought it, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but then it doesn't have like all the features of an iPhone. So in this analogy, Ethereum is the iPhone, the latest iPhone 15 Pro, and then the $50 Android phone. It does the bare minimum, and it will do like messaging things. You download a few apps on it, so on and so forth, but it doesn't have like anywhere near the processing power, for example, of an iPhone. It doesn't have the camera of the iPhone. It doesn't have access to the iPhone App Store, and so on and so forth. So when you look at it like that from that analogy, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of reasoning by analogy, but I think that's a good analogy. You can see what I mean about these things not being apples to apples at all, but there's still nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with the $50 Android phone, there's nothing wrong with the iPhone, but the thing is that they're completely different products, and you can't be comparing them as if they're the same thing, because it just doesn't make any sense to me. At least that's my view on these things there. But anyway, you can go check out this brand new DA page from L2Beat. It's great. I really love that they've put this together. All right, so Denkun today, as you guys know, and I think that Denkun has gotten all the attention. EIP 4844 has gotten all the attention with regards to lowering fees on L2s, but as I've said for a long time now, the L1 is just one place where fees can be lowered for L2s. The L2s themselves can lower their own fees with their own upgrades and improvements over time. Now, Offchain Labs, the developers behind the Arbitrum ecosystem, tweeted out a thread today saying, the blobs are coming this week, but did you know that in addition to the EIP 4844 upgrade lowering costs, there is also an active snapshot vote taking place in the Arbitrum DAO that would reduce other fees for users on the Arbitrum One network. And then they dive deep into what these fees are. So basically, they say here that on layer 2 chains, fees are a combination of L2 gas, which charges for use of resources on the L2 chain itself, plus data posting fees that pass on the cost of posting data to Ethereum L1. As blobs roll out, L1 data posting costs are expected to be dramatically reduced, although the exact size is difficult to predict, obviously. But in addition to those costs coming down, ArbOS Atlas is also introducing major reductions in other fees as well, and is expected to be activated on March 18. So they're going to be reducing the L1 surplus fee, so reduce the surplus fee per byte from 2 Gwei to 0, and the L2 base fee, reduce the minimum from 0.1 Gwei to 0.01 Gwei here. So they say here, based on the last 30 days of data, these two changes would reduce the above fees by about 90% from where they were previously. And this is in addition to the reduced L1 data posting fees for Arbitrum. So the net result is the combination of blobs and the forthcoming reduction in Arbitrum L2 fees are expected to dramatically reduce transaction costs, benefiting all users. I'm surprised this didn't get more attention because this is huge. I mean, if you take blobs and what Arbitrum is doing here, and then you kind of get to March 18th when this goes live on the network, you can kind of see that, I mean, just doing rough napkin math here, there could be potentially up to a 90% reduction in fees on Arbitrum One. And then that's huge, guys. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys have looked at the fees lately, and it's kind of, I mean, the fees are gonna change from time to time. Obviously, right now, the fees are heavily influenced by the fact that they're sharing the same fee market as normal L1 fees, and then post blobs, these fees are going to come down dramatically. But right now, with Gwei at 65, so currently Gwei is 65, on Arbitrum One, it will cost you 61 cents to send ETH, $1.64 to swap tokens. Now, post EIP 4844, these costs are already gonna drop dramatically because the blob fee market is starting from 0 Gwei essentially. I mean, not exactly 0 Gwei, maybe like 0.01 Gwei, like the bare minimum it can start at. And the thing is right now that the L1 normal L1 fees are 65 Gwei, so we're already reducing that by a substantial amount, 65 to let's say 1. So that right there is an absolutely huge reduction that these rollups are immediately going to feel as soon as they start posting their data to blobs instead of call data. Now throw in what Arbitrum is doing with their own kind of fees on their L2, which is going to reduce it even further. So we could see swaps on Arbitrum from $1.64 down to, you know, I'm not going to give like exact figures here. I'm going to be conservative with my predictions, but post when they go live with their own updates on March 18th, we could see their fees drop down to like less than 5 cents or something like that for a swap from $1.64. Like that's the kind of reduction we're talking about here, guys. But I don't want to speculate more on numbers here. We're so close to Denkun. There's no point me speculating. We're going to see it all play out. But just a reminder that obviously blobs are going to be day one for Arbitrum One, OP Main, and a bunch of the other L2s. But on March 18th is when these changes come to Arbitrum One itself. So I'm going to be very much looking forward to that. But really the North Star of all the L2s right now of the Ethereum ecosystem is driving fees down on these L2s to zero, basically, or to as close to zero as possible. Just getting those fees down as much as we can, because that's how we grow the Ethereum ecosystem. That is what everyone's working towards, both at the L1 and the L2s, and higher, the L3s as well, of course. But yeah, anyway. I'm going to cover the fee reduction on tomorrow's episode. It's going to be exciting, so we'll actually get some initial data on what the fee reduction is going to look like. So there's probably no use me speculating right now since we're so close. But anyway, moving on from that one. So a tweet from Optimism that I missed the other day. So this is from about a week ago. They tweeted out saying, "Did you know that 3 of the best ZK teams in the world are all working towards implementing a zero-knowledge proof for the OP stack?" And they said here, "We recommend peeking the progress comments in the repo." Now, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Two things here. First thing, I said this years ago, where I said that optimistic rollups aren't going to be obsoleted, or the projects aren't going to be obsoleted by ZK rollups or by ZK proofs, because they can just integrate ZK proofs into their stack. And that's exactly what both the Arbitrum and Optimism ecosystems are working on right now. And eventually that's going to be a thing. And the second thing is that OP stack still doesn't have fraud proofs. And I'm still wondering, I've said this before, but I'm still wondering if they're going to skip over fraud proofs and just go straight to ZK proofs, and then just kind of like leapfrog that, because there's going to be ZK proofs ready to be integrated into the OP stack. I don't know what's going to happen there. I mean, Optimism is taking so long with their fraud proofs right now. It's kind of become a little bit of a joke, to be honest. I mean, I wish there was more updates here. But regardless of that, maybe they come out in the next few weeks, or maybe, I don't know what the timeline is here, but in the near future, let's say, and they say, okay, guys, well, we worked on this stuff, but hey, we're going to give you the option of using either fraud proofs or ZK proofs. Have at it. And by give you the option, I mean like give the OP stack builders the option. And then it would be very curious to see which ones the OP stack, which ones the different OP stack chains go with, because there are different costs associated with fraud proofs versus ZK proofs. ZK proofs are still more expensive than fraud proofs, but obviously they have the pros of the various pros that come with being doing a ZK proof, such as like no need for that 7-day dispute period and so on and so forth. But yeah, I mean, there's all trade-offs at the end of the day. But anyway, you can go give this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. Alright, so just the last thing on Denkun here, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Apex777.eth. He actually shared this with me in Twitter DMs. Basically, it's a frame on Farcaster where you can mint a collection of blobs here that you can see, just like randomly generated little pixels here. It's only $2 to mint, it's on base, and you can just mint it mints it based on your address, your Ethereum address that you have tied to your Farcaster account. It's really cool. I highly recommend going in and kind of checking it out there. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. And as I said, it's only $2, and it's paid in ETH, and it's not much. And it goes to Apex777 here, and they've done a bunch of other stuff as well. I think they did some Dino thing I saw a few weeks ago. But I just wanted to give a shout out because I like frames on Farcaster. It's a fun little thing to do. And they passed it on to me, so they took the time to reach out and everything. But also at the same time, I want to show you guys something. So I minted mine, of course, on here. And my blob actually ended up looking like, if I can get it up for you guys, it'll be funny to show you what it kind of looks like here. So where is it?
I'm having trouble kind of bringing it up on my screen here, but just imagine one of these blobs looking like a brown potato. My blob ended up looking like a potato. And for those of you who have been keeping track of the memes that have been coming out of Twitter recently, having my blob be a potato is hilarious, because one of the Bloomberg guys that tracks the ETF stuff, Eric Bilchunas, basically called "Eat Small Potatoes," and it became a meme. And I just found it hilarious that my blob looked like a potato. It's like the universe trying to tell me something. But anyway, you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, last thing to talk about today has got to do with MakerDAO. Now, MakerDAO, that is an old project, guys. It's been around for a very long time now, since the end of 2017. I remember when it first went live, end of 2017, I had absolutely no idea what it was. I was looking at it being like, what is this thing? This is so complex. I'll figure it out later. And I didn't end up kind of learning about it until sometime in 2018. But the reason I bring it up today is because Rune, the co-founder of MakerDAO, has another thread / forum post out today all about the future of Maker and the end game, and what the goal is for 100 billion DAI, and how they're going to get to the goal of 100 billion DAI and beyond. So you can go check this out for yourself. I'll link in the YouTube description below. There are a lot of things happening here, guys. I mean, it seems like they're doing like a token conversion as well, where they're essentially doing a token split, where the new token is splits, I think, 1 to 24,000. So for every one MKR token you have, you'll have 24,000 of this new token. And as you guys know, there's a unit bias when it comes to tokens, where if a token is really cheap in price, and you can own like millions of it or whatever for a small amount, people love that, because they're like, oh my God, I got millions of this token. If it goes to $1, I'm going to be rich. Obviously, you know, the vast majority, if not all of these tokens, don't go to $1 because there's just so many of them, and people don't look at market cap and stuff. But it's kind of funny that Maker is going down that path here. But that's not the only thing. There are a bunch of other things. They're going to be doing a new brand reveal as well. That's going to be interesting to see. New stable. They call it, so the naming here is kind of funny. They call it like new stable and new gov token, because they haven't actually kind of given the names out yet, or maybe they haven't decided on names yet. So you'll see a lot of that. And there's a bunch of other features here. I'm not going to try and break it down on the refuel, because I'd be here all day reading through this, but I just wanted to put it on your radar. Definitely go check this out for yourself. There are people on Twitter debating this, whether it's good or bad, because some of the stuff adds centralization, like adding more real-world assets to the protocol, adding things like Athena's SUSDE to the protocol as well, which is good for, I mean, the growth of DAI and good for Athena. But people kind of look at it and like, okay, well, is this just making DAI even riskier, because you're adding like this collateral that is untested? It's very closely tied to funding rates across the ecosystem and to leverage across the ecosystem, so on and so forth. Those discussions are happening on Twitter if you've seen them, but you can go check out the forum post as well, because there are going to be discussions on there too, as well as replies to Rune's tweet here. But yeah, I think that's it on the Maker front there. Just a last thing before we finish up. This will be the last episode, obviously, that I'll do before Denkun goes live on the Ethereum mainnet. Just before it goes live, I want to say thank you to everyone for following along with everything and asking me questions about it, and following along with all my coverage of Denkun up until this point, or 48, 44 up until this point. It's been really cool to get DMs from you guys asking questions, me being able to answer them for you, and you kind of loving it and loving the fact that, you know, the L2s are getting cheaper, and you kind of once you realize what the blobs are going to do and what they symbolize, and they symbolize the start of like the real Ethereum scaling I guess like era, people really get excited about it, and I love that. I love it when people get excited about it. I can feel the excitement through the text. It's kind of funny how they get so excited that I can feel that there. So just wanted to thank everyone for following along with my coverage of it. But the coverage of blobs doesn't stop, as a reminder, because as you guys know, blobs are only the first step towards full danksharding. Blobs themselves can be changed over time for the better, obviously increasing the size of blobs and potentially increasing the number of them. But I think they're going to be sticking to increasing the size of them, which gives us even more scalability. And then we're finally at the point by tomorrow's episode where I'll be able to actually give you guys accurate fees on the L2's post blobs. We'll be actually able to look at the metrics and look at the early kind of fees that are on there, and be like, okay, well, the fees were reduced from here, from what they are today to what they are then, and then we can monitor over time and see what happens there. But anyway, on that note, that's going to be it for today, because I got to get ready for the live stream, which is happening in a couple of hours from now. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.